if you're a Bitcoin believer, you think Bitcoin is going to outperform the S&P index forever. And if Bitcoin outperforms the S&P index forever, you can sell a dividend that's less than the S&P forever. And then you can also sell a convertible preferred that outperforms, right? That's good forever. So
Michael Saylor just called the entire preferred stock market garbage. And now he's not just disrupting the system, he's replacing it forever. In a fiery takedown of legacy finance, Michael Saylor unveils a bold new vision, an infinite duration Bitcoin-backed credit instrument designed to outlive and outperform everything Wall Street currently offers. Forget the 20th century playbook of illiquid, callable debt instruments. Saylor mocks the outdated 144A bonds that clog up over-the-counter markets and yield a measly 6% backed by regional banks you've never heard of. Instead, he's launching Strife, a credit instrument with no expiry and no plan to buy back. The goal? Sell billions when interest rates drop, not refinance like a banker stuck in 1998. And when Strife trades at a premium, the yields fall, but the capital raise skyrockets. Saylor's vision is to destroy the fragmented world of 1,000-plus preferred stocks and replace it with one Bitcoin-backed preferred stock with a $50 billion float, trading $2 billion a day. Liquid, profitable, and universally trusted. We're not just better than junk bonds, we're better than investment-grade corporate credit. We've got more collateral, more liquidity, and more upside. In his words, this is the killer app for Bitcoin treasury companies. Not equity, but BTC-backed credit that dominates the financial system over decades. Is this the future of capital markets, or Saylor's biggest gamble yet? Drop your take in the comments. Would you trust a Bitcoin-backed bond over a traditional one? Like this video if you're ready for the death of outdated credit. Share it with someone still stuck in 1990s finance. Subscribe, because Saylor isn't done dismantling the old world. Why settle for weak credit from broken banks when you can own an unstoppable instrument backed by the hardest asset on Earth? And guess what? Other Bitcoin treasury company can copy Saylor's Bitcoin strategy. Take a listen.
What I just described, every Bitcoin treasury company can copy. I invite you to copy it. I encourage you to copy it, because just like 20 BTC companies issuing equity legitimizes Bitcoin and Bitcoin equity, 20 companies issuing Bitcoin-backed credit instruments will legitimize Bitcoin-backed credit, will accelerate the digital transformation of all the credit markets and create a stampede of capital out of the 20th century defective, crippled credit instruments into the digital credit instruments of the 21st century. And S&P and Moody's and Fitch, they'll all just start to cover that. Everybody's view of credit risk will evolve. The retirees get 200 basis points more yield on something which is an order of magnitude less risky. Bitcoin goes to $1 million, $2 million. As Bitcoin goes up, the collateral goes up, the markets all evolve. And what I'm describing is the way that I see the digital transformation of the capital markets driven by these BTC companies.
When Michael was asked whether Bitcoin's growth through financial engineering is being overshadowed by increasing centralization on the technical side, like the dominance of a few mining pools and declining node participation, his response was thought-provoking. He was challenged with this critical question. Is this centralization a threat to Bitcoin's core principle of decentralization? And if so, what social, economic, or financial measures can we take to push back against it? Listen to his response. It's one every Bitcoiner should hear.
I think that the Bitcoin mining network is decentralizing everywhere in the world. It's far more decentralized today than it was during the China lockdowns, when China shut down their Bitcoin mining. And when China was mining half of it, that was sort of centralized. And then it migrated to the U.S. And in the past year or two, it's migrating out of the U.S. and spreading everywhere in the world. And at the end of the day, I don't think the pools have that much power. I think that the power rests with the economic actors. It rests with the economic nodes. It rests with political actors. It rests with the Bitcoin miners. It rests with a bunch of tech providers. there's a lot more parties that are engaged in consensus today than there were 5 years ago. And I think the mining pools are much weaker and again, largely irrelevant. Any mining pool that wanted to drive any particular policy would and could be fairly quickly overridden by all the other economic actors or technical actors in the space right now. So I actually think Bitcoin is at its most robust it's ever been, in my opinion. And so I think we're good. There's going to be people concerned about everything under the sun all the time, and I think that's healthy. It's healthy that everyone's worried about this protocol change or Bitcoin Core or this mining pool. That's a healthy degree of skepticism, but I wouldn't interpret that healthy immune response for the network being weaker today. The network is far stronger today than at any point that I can remember or point to. Bitcoin is spreading everywhere in the world, and you can choose to engage with it peer-to-peer with self-custody and bypass the exchanges. I think you can look at Bitcoin as one world of Bitcoin where it's all individuals working with each other, and there are a lot of different ways you can do that, right? I mean, there are various individual strategies or techniques where you're not working with an exchange and you're not working with a company. I think there's a second way to view Bitcoin, which is what if 400,000 companies all trade peer-to-peer with each other and bypass the exchanges and the banks? I think there's a third way to view it, which is what happens if 50,000 banks start to hold it and trade with each other peer-to-peer? I think there's a certain way that people are dealing with crypto exchanges today, but that's dynamically evolving. I think that as the digital assets environment becomes more flexible, I think you'll see an explosion of innovation. And the innovation is taking place at the country level, and it's taking place at the individual level. And whatever is the status quo today probably won't be the same in 5 years. And there'll be some countries that will err on the side of more liberty and freedom and privacy, and they will develop very good technologies, and those will probably spread everywhere else in the world. And there'll be other countries that err on the side of KYC and censorship and not privacy. And I think it's not a Bitcoin problem. It's a nation state or citizenship problem. If you find yourself in a particularly hostile nation state where they deprive you of your privacy or your economic liberties, then of course the answer is you're either going to use technology that came from another place, like VPNs and firewalls and the like, or you're going to move. But I think Bitcoin, because it's global, is it's allowing every nation, every actor everywhere in the world to develop technology for layer 2, layer 3, layer 4 protocols as fast as they can. There are things that are being done in countries that you don't live in that would be illegal in your country or not culturally acceptable. And you will probably, as a Bitcoin holder, you're the beneficiary of someone doing something in another place that might, you know, if I own Bitcoin in Cuba or North Korea, I'm getting rich, even though it's illegal to own Bitcoin in Korea and Cuba. And likewise, a lot of good technology will flow from the U.S. into countries that wouldn't allow it, and there'll be technology that flows from other countries into Europe where it may not be allowable. And I think that's dynamic equilibrium. There's no one answer except for the fact that it's pretty clear that if you're looking for the best answer is going to be a decentralized network like Bitcoin, and then decentralized layer 2 protocols like Lightning. And they are most likely to provide the most sovereign resistance and sound money properties that you could get. There's no second best idea. So a friend of mine says, things aren't necessarily perfect here. That's why we call it Earth and not heaven. And I would say with regard to this, there's always going to be imperfections in people's implementations of Bitcoin. That's why it's earth, it's not heaven. But the second best idea is much, much worse than that. And what Bitcoin gives us is it gives us hope that if you are stuck in a place where you have an imperfect capability or imperfect execution, somebody somewhere else in the world is probably working on something better. And once they roll it out, it will start to either directly or indirectly improve your condition as a network participant. And so I take that incremental approach, and I don't get demoralized or depressed if I see there's a suboptimal thing. If there's some exchange or some wallet that did something I didn't like, I just accept the fact that we move forward, sometimes imperfectly, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's all human progress takes place. And if you're too much of an idealist and you demand that everything be perfect everywhere at all the time, throughout the journey, you never get started on the journey and you'll never get to a better place. And I think we're moving to a pretty good place right now. And on the margin, you have $2 trillion of economic energy in the network today that is imperfectly distributed to some actors. But 10 years ago, you had a few $1 billion of economic energy in the network. And it's not like the network was more functional then or all the applications were better. So I think we're better off today. And now that everybody sees the excitement, you're about to see the best and brightest minds everywhere in the world start to spend orders of magnitude more money on programming and innovation and layer 2s and layer 3s in order to cure all the problems that you identify. And I agree there's lots of problems in the world. I think that Bitcoin is a movement and a technology and a protocol that provides us with a hopeful path to get to solutions that are better than anybody else has proposed with any other protocol that I am currently aware of.
And that's a wrap for today's video, but before you go, let's pause on something wild. Michael Saylor just predicted Bitcoin hitting 1 million and then shooting to 2 million. Bold? Yes. But coming from the man who's bet billions on Bitcoin, it's not just talk. Now the big question is, do you see this happening? Or is it a moonshot too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from real believers and skeptics alike. If this got you thinking, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more high-stakes Bitcoin insights and crypto updates every day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.